Hello and welcome back to the Polkadot Codecamp. Today we're gonna discover about the cross-chain DeFi primitives on Polkadot hubs, like how you can build the cross-chain DeFi applications with ECM, Hyperbridge, and also other tools like Bifrost. Now the workshop objectives is covered. By the end of the workshop, you will understand ECMs, learn Hyperbridge SDK integrations, cross-chain DeFi application, implement cross-chain asset transfer, explore reward DeFi use cases, deploy working cross-chain apps. Now for the cross-chain regions, why the cross-chain? The problem is let's say if you have two blockchains, and as the user, you want you can either access to the blockchain A, and then also want to do access to the blockchain B, because you have $100 million locked on the blockchain A. Then how can you do that? So you need to bridge the token from the blockchain A to blockchain B, but there's gonna be a risk, a centralized risk on the bridge, and $500 million is still a huge amount of money. And the other thing would be that blockchain B need to have enough liquidity to support the amount of tokens transferred from the blockchain A. Now the solution would be for the Polkadot hubs is called directly to the runtime module asset management because it's built on top of Polkadot asset hubs. And with these, there's a native SCMs that the asset management can interact with other DeFi protocols, and it's gonna enable the seamless cross-chain DeFi across the whole Polkadot network and also from the Polkadot hub specifically. So the benefit of true interoperability is to access liquidity everywhere, best rate across the change, unified user experience, and no bridge risk. Tap into the entire ecosystem, composed with any protocol, network effect, multiply, and share security. And for the ecosystem, it would be the capital efficiency, innovation accelerations, competitive advantage, and sustainable role. How about understanding the ECMs? So what is the ECMs? We actually also have the videos. If you search for OpenQ ECMs, then you can find there's a few videos about ECM fundamentals, connect operations with relay change, and also introduction to ECM, transport protocol, and ECVMs. Now, understanding about the ECM, so what is ECM? So ECMs is not a protocol, but a language for communicating between the consensus system. The key concept of the ECM is going to be what to do. It's going to be the instructions that guide SCM protocol on what to do, where to do it, or I can say the locations and what the asset, multi-asset, how to pay the fee. So all these are terms in the ECM message. The characteristic, it would be version control, currently V3s, agnostic to transport layer, extensible instruction set, and deterministic execution and built-in error handling. And ECM versus traditional bridge. For the traditional bridge, you have the source change, you lock the token on the bridge contract, which is a centralized contract. That is gonna mean burn on the target change. But here you need to have wrap tokens or fragmented liquidity. For the bridge contract, it might just require all security risk. For the ECM on Polkadot hubs, it's gonna be calling to the native ECMs to the relay change. Then you have the validations directly on the relay change that is enable the trustless and self security attribute. External system native asset is to the verify message to the ECM protocol and allow the external system to receive that asset. And this is the native asset, doesn't have to be wrap and unify liquidity. Now for the ECM architecture, we have the locations, multi-locations. So how to adjust any location in the multiverse? We have the parents and the relay change, sibling parent change, that you can call to the interior. So parent relay change is called to interior here. Then you have account the parent change is gonna be 3 levels of the locations. Yeah, and all this you can also discover more in those videos in the past bootcamp of OpenQ. Here we're gonna go directly to more matters topic, okay, so that is about ECM. So let's say if you want to use ECM, you can also using ECM recompose directly on Solidity to enable you to transfer do cross-chain actions directly on Solidity smart contract. And for Hyperbridge, it's enhanced the cross-chain communication. So what is the Hyperbridge? Hyperbridge is a cross-chain messaging protocol. The features of the Hyperbridge is going to be enable trustless message passing, cryptographic proof, lower latency than ECMs, external chain connectivity, Ethereum, Cosmos, etc. The architecture of the hyperbridge would be you have a hyperbridge message, consensus, and verifications. Then this hyperbridge gonna like bridge will like all connect to like all the network, like the whole parachain, whole Polkadot religion, and also like Ethereum's. So in that way, it's enable you like to transfer like from like Polkadot parachain to like Ethereum L2. On the other hand, hyperbridge also like connect to like Cosmos and also like connect to all the chain later in the futures. Um, so hyperbridge is different from ECM. So like for ECM, it's native to Polkadot. For hyperbridge, it's multi-ecosystem support. For ECM, it's a deep integrations parachain only. But like for Polkadot, it's connected to Ethereum Cosmos, cryptographic roof, and lower fee for some operations. So best practices would be to use both to like enable like the best like cross-chain features for your smart contract. ECM to like parachain to parachain, hyperbridge for the external change. For the hyperbridge SDK integrations, you're gonna install the hyperbridge SDK. The basic setup would be you're gonna connect the hyperbridge to the one of the change, and you can like send the cross-chain message directly to the hyperbridge client. And you can also like do that receiving the message directly on the Solidity, where you can like call this process message method, where it's gonna be calling to the iMessage receiver of the hyperbridge, and then in that way you can like tackle like the cross-chain message sent to the smart contract directly to like Solidity. So there's some cross-chain DeFi use cases where we have a cross-chain DEX aggregator. The best prices spread across like multiple chains, where you can write like the smart contract to aggregate the liquidity across the other change. So now we have a hyperbridge and also like parachain, and you can either do like if you do like local swap, it's gonna do just swapping directly on like the parachain like asset hubs. If you do like cross-chain swapping, is you can aggregate the data across like for example external change with like hyperbridge, or like just native chain with like parachain with ICMs. So in that way you have like all prices aggregated on like one smart contract. Cross-chain lending, deposit on one chain, borrow on another. And with a cross-chain lending, you can like borrow on like chain A, and then like you can like deposit on chain A to borrow the token on chain B, and that's why it's gonna do like cross-chain DeFi in a better way. And you also have like cross-chain yield aggregator automatically like move fund to best yield across like all the change instead of like only like stick into like one change. And Bifrost also have a liquid staking use case, where like Bifrost provides a liquid staking for Polkadot asset. Stack dot get the V dot, use V dot in DeFi while earning staking reward. Cross-chain iteration like to the ECMs, 15 to like 20% like APY on stack asset. Why it matters? So like it's unlock like liquidity from stack asset, capital efficiency, enable DeFi composability, and cross-chain yield strategies. So yeah. And that way you can like use like Bifrost cross-chain use cases directly on your smart contract. Here's like some resources where you can learn about all these cross-chain topic. We have an ECM format where you can learn about the format of the ECMs, ECM docs where you can like learn about the ECMs, and ECM example where you can learn about like how to use ECM in the real code. For the hyperbridge also like provide docs for you to connect to the hybrid network, SDK reference, and example as well. And for Bifrost, you also have Bifrost doc, integration guide, and SDK. You can find all these in the slide of like the Polkadot Code Camp. And the tools, we have the Chopstick, ECM tools, Moonbeam ECM recompiles. For like some common questions, so like how long does an ECM message take? So typically like 1 or 2 blocks on destination change, so it takes around like 10 to like 24 seconds, but like can vary. What like happen if like ECM fail? So like it depend on like implementations. So best practice would be like implement timeouts and refund. Can I use like ECM from Ethereum? So like not directly. You can use like a hyperbridge to like connect to Ethereum to Polkadot, but like for ECM you can only like connect to like parachain to parachain. So like our ECM message is expensive. It's relatively like quite cheap, usually under like $0.01. So much less than like traditional bridges. And how long like how do you debug ECM's issues? You can use a tool called like Chopstick, where you can like fork like all the chain on local, and like you see like the path of the ECM message. And yeah, so like that's like the end of like today's workshop, and some summary. ECM enables just like cross-chain communication, hyperbridge like extend an external ecosystem. Cross-chain DeFi unlock new possibility and powerful examples so like reward use case, security, roper, error handling are critical. Yeah, thank you for listening to today Polkadot podcast.